Hello, my name is Tiffany Flowers, and I'm the campaign director of the Frontline. I'm a dark skinned black woman with gap teeth. My hair is pulled into a bun. I have on a blue and red headband and a black cowl neck sweater. Like I said, I'm the campaign manager of oh, I'm sorry, and my pronouns are she and her. So let's get into it. What is the Frontline? The Frontline is a joint campaign between the Working Families Party, United We Dream, the Rising Majority, and the Movement for Black Lives Electoral Justice Project. Before we get much deeper into the program, I'd like to let you know that ASL interpretation is available on screen throughout the program, and you can find access to the number at the bottom of your screen. So, why is the Frontline celebrating the legacy of bell hooks for the entire month of February? That's a great question. Let's get right into it.
A genuine feminist politics always brings us from bondage to freedom, from lovelessness to loving. There can be no love without justice.
So, right now, I'd like to bring Leslie and Eunique to join me on screen and get right into our really exciting program. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hello. Hey, Tiffany. So great to be here.
Thank you for being here. Hey, Eunique.
Hey, how are you?
Couldn't be better.
Awesome.
Could, could you go into a description of yourselves for our viewers, Leslie and then Eunique?
Absolutely. I am a light skinned Black woman with right now straight blonde hair. I'm wearing blue glasses, a blue shirt with a necklace, and I also have on glasses and white earbuds.
Awesome. So, I am a light skinned black woman with natural hair. I am wearing a brown and black sweater with big hoop earrings and red lipstick.
Yes, a beautiful fiery red lip, if I could add some descriptors, Unique.
Oh, thank you, Kat.
Um, so, like I said, we have such a wonderful and exciting program. And I think if you're here, you probably know or have some interest in our new ancestor, Bell Hooks. So, I want to pose the question right away. Leslie, when were you first introduced to Bell Hooks?
I was introduced to bell hooks in high school. So I went to an girls boarding school in upstate New York, a staunch feminist institution. I always like to put the quotes around there because it's, white feminism trademark. And I remember being introduced to bell hooks in English class sophomore year. And it was one of those moments for me that I had been taking in a lot of feminist ideology and discussions about feminism, but something for me wasn't clicking. I didn't see myself in what these women and all the teachers were talking about and what this community, was kind of rooted in. And then Bell Hooks was introduced to me, and I realized what was missing. And she kind of opened up a whole nother section of my imagination around what feminism is, what it means to be a Black woman, and center yourself in feminism. And also my first taste of radicalizing myself, against the ills of the world and thinking about how to interact with the world in a way that confronts the things that dehumanize us. And so that's what I remember. She was that first crack open in, making me really confront the world in a different way. And yeah, life has not been the same since. I'll be really honest about it. It was definitely a big awakening for me.
I think a lot of people have a similar first reaction, particularly us Black girls, Black women. I'm calling us Black girls because it's Black girl time right now. Tell me about your first experience, Unique. What do you remember about your introduction to Bell?
Yeah, I thought about this question and yeah, I tried to think like Leslie, like, wow, and I introduced to bell hooks in high school, and I could say no. Was I introduced to bell hooks in college? Couldn't say yes. My first introduction to bell hooks really came in my late 20s, by way of her book All About Love. And it really, I didn't have like a real awareness of who Bell Hooks was, to be quite honest with you. I think I was intrigued as a connoisseur of books. I was intrigued by the cover. I was intrigued by how she wrote her name. And I just thought it sounded interesting. And it was the best accidental discovery, if you will, that I could have made, because I realized so many um, uh, so many discoveries and revelations and how we view love and what love is and what love isn't, but also, the motivation behind so many different things that I'm passionate about, from the civil rights movement to the work that I'm doing now with Because When We Can. And I thought about the quote that was that you all just started off with, but what I love is that full quote, right, which says, there can be no love without justice until we live in a culture that not only respects but also upholds basic civil rights for children. Most children will not know love. And so much of my work, and the things that I've been so passionate about, have been making sure that young people feel the love that I felt growing up. Not the love that Bell Hooks talks about, that isn't love, which is associated with like approval, right? Or good feelings and thoughts, but like true love. And for me, that has been manifested through the work that I do, through how I love my people, through how I love, Black women, Black men, Black culture, and community. And so, yeah, for me, the introduction was definitely all about love.
Yeah, same for the book for me. And I want to thank you, Eunique, for naming that your experience didn't come through academia, right? Because so often people have that introduction to Black feminists and feminism, and it can be make it exclusive for the rest of the world. And so I feel like you made such a good point to say you got it in your 20s, and there are some people here that may read bell hooks for the first time after this conversation. So just thank you for naming that it didn't have to be in your youth or through an academic experience to come into this actual love experience, right?
Can I be honest though? Like, I was a little jealous, because not because I wanted it through academia, but because I wish I had it sooner. I wish I
Mhm.
had known Bell Hooks and her teachings prior to, like, going through my 20s. Like, it was probably like I was probably 29 or 30. But absolutely, the way I discovered it was the right way for me. But I have to be honest, when I hear about people like Leslie who are like, yo, I was introduced in high school, I want to call up school, like, what's up with the curriculum? Like, I can't even tell you what we were reading. But absolutely, I think it's, Bell Hooks is for everyone whenever they discover her.
No, it's so
Yeah,
true.
it's
Go
funny.
ahead.
I want to give a quick shout out to my English teacher, Paul Lamar, who I know will be watching this. I talk to him quite frequently, and he was the one who introduced me to bell hooks, a gay man, a gay white man. And I think um, he always was trying to expand the notions of what, was considered classic, what was considered essential. And I feel really blessed to have somebody in my academic life at such a young age that was so focused on those types of conversations and really pushing the envelope. And I know it wasn't easy in the environment to do that. So just giving Mr. Lamar a little shout out as well.
Shout out to the teachers that push us and show us new things. And like you, Eunique, I didn't get Bell until later on in life. I mean, it was the end of my college career, but those tumultuous 20s, I probably could have used a little more instruction and help in that very loving way that she led and held us and gave us hope through that. So, sticking with you, Eunique, Bell spoke so much about love of ourselves and love of community. And you just touched a little bit on Because of Them We Can. So could you share the story of how Because of Them We Can began and what it's grown into, and just what that means to you in relation to your teachings from Bell?
Yeah, I really think that, I would have to ask my parents if they ever read or followed the teachings of Bell Hooks, because I feel like so much of what I do now came from the foundation that I was blessed with in my household, where I had parents who made it very clear that they loved us, but also wanted to make sure that we were rooted in who we were by knowing the strong lineage that we came from, by knowing our history. And so in 2013, I found myself in a place where it was a 1 year anniversary of Trayvon Martin's murder. And I had two little boys, and I was trying to figure out how to create this bubble of love and self-esteem for them, but not only them, all children, so that they would be able to navigate through this world. And so it was at that time that I was watching my little son. He was shadow boxing in the kitchen, and I was like, wow, he looks a little like Muhammad Ali. And my mind just went wild with all sorts of thoughts about dressing him up and other kids up like these trailblazers. And so I launched this campaign where I reimagined young people in the shoes of trailblazers and aligned them with quotes, and was only supposed to be doing it for 28 days for Black History Month. And then I thought about how much of a hypocrite I would be if I stopped in Black History Month. I was like, I'm gonna do it the Woodson way, and I'm gonna keep it going. And so, 9 years later, it's crazy to still be doing the work and to see it evolve to where it is now. But again, it's like leading with love, right? It's leading with love. It's being passionate and serious about justice as well, and making sure that I represent in a way that can help other people who may be incognizant of who they are, may be incognizant of their power, may be afraid of their power, right? May be intimidated by it, but making sure that I put enough in the atmosphere and in the universe that counters so many of those thoughts and messages that we get just from living in the type of society that we exist in. And so whether it's positive news stories, whether it's positive content, my role is to make sure that I am doing my job to celebrate and to amplify Black culture and community.
I'm just going to take a moment of personal privilege to just say that your work is such a gift to our community. I'm going to try not to get emotional because everybody that knows me knows I'm a big crier. When I'm happy, I cry. When I'm sad, I cry. But it has really just been such a gift before I knew you, before I knew who was behind it, to be able to see those images, to be able to share them on family threads, on social media, to really counter, like you said, all of the negative stereotypes, all of the horrible narratives that are put into this world about our people, particularly for our youth. I don't know how much energy must go into keeping that going, but even on your Instagram page, when you share these little TikToks and these quick anecdotes of regular Black people doing amazing things, and then they come back and they say, I'm one of them. Because of us, they can. I mean, it touches my heart so much every single time, and I'm just so grateful for your vision, for Belle, for love, for leading with love, for your parents. Tell your dad I said hi. And for everything that you're doing. And Leslie, I see you were going to say something as well.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I remember the first campaign, Eunique, and I was like so blown away as a creative, as a comms person. I just remember thinking, you found a way to get across so much with image only, and it was so beautiful to see. I literally shared every single one every single day that first 28 days on social media, because I just felt like it was a bridge that we had been missing for a really long time, especially in social media spaces and in digital spaces, to connect our children with our past, to connect ourselves with our past, and not in ways that was focused on the difficulty of being Black, the hardships of being Black, even though those are real. And we'll be talking about that during this week as well. But our communities themselves, that's where our beautifulness comes from. It's where we find our lifeblood, how we come together, whether it's chosen family or biological family or a mixture therein. And I really have just been so in awe watching you grow the brand to really illustrate that over and over again, that it's always about community. It's always about our connections, how we connect with each other. And I'm curious, this was not in our script, but I'm curious to hear from you, when things started kind of taking off, was there any pushback? Where did you find it? How was the reception? I'm really curious about that too.
Yeah, I think there were, that's why Belle is so dope. I think there were people who didn't want me to dream a dream bigger than the 28 days. Right? Like, that was very obvious when I started to evolve and grow. And when I made it very clear that there wasn't a box, right? Even if people who were like, well, she's a photographer, and it's like, no, I do photography. Like, it was very clear that people wanted to just, keep it here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, it was also very scary because I didn't have a blueprint of somebody who started something on social at that time and then evolved it into something like bigger than they could have ever imagined. There are tons of blueprints now. there really wasn't one at that time back in 2013. And so I did get pushback from people who were just like, okay, that was cute. That was nice, but didn't understand the vision and the purpose. And I kept saying it's bigger than these pictures of cute kids. It's way bigger than that. And so it was really challenging, but also motivating to figure out how to continue to evolve it, how to continue to grow it. And the community helped from, saying things like, hey, these pictures are nice, but I'd really like some posters, or I'd really like a calendar, or I'd really like a book. And so I think I was just running the first year, just trying to, acquiesce and keep up with the demand. And then there were people who wanted within my circle, and people externally who were like, you need to expand this to other cultures. You need to expand this to other communities. And so I found myself, especially when it was coming from inside the camp, I found myself like torn, right? And trying to dabble and figure out like, all right, well, let me do something for Women's History Month that encompasses everybody. And then be like, this ain't what I want to do. I'm sorry. Like, I believe, every child deserves to see themselves represented in a way that makes them feel good about who they are and their potential. Absolutely. Doesn't make it my responsibility though, to bring forth those images. And I was torn because I was in a space where I was being, pushed in a direction where it was like, no, it is on you, because when we can, it's for everyone. And it is, but it's for everyone to really understand the magnitude and the magnificence of Blackness. That's what it is, right? The appreciation for it. And I'm okay with that now. But in the beginning, it was really tough because of the influences that were around me. And then there were just people who were like, this is racist. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's hard when whiteness isn't centered. I get that. I get you being frustrated and offended by that, but that's not my problem. And so, it hasn't been easy to keep it going, but it also hasn't been hard because it is a love letter to my community. It is a love letter to Black children. It is a love letter to anyone who's wondering about their potential, about their past, whether it's people who, know where they come from, have connections to family or not. It's like you can identify somebody past or present who looks like you, who can show you what your potential could look like. And it doesn't have to be a celebrity. It doesn't have to be somebody who's older or deceased. It could be somebody in the present. And I take joy in that. And so, yeah, like shout out to all the people who were like, that was cute. Your little calendar project. So, 9 years later, we're still rocking.
Well, we're so grateful that you are. I mean, it's one of my favorite accounts on Instagram to go to every day and just see what you guys are cooking up. I love the way that you always pair, like you said, a photograph with a little write up. There's always more context and a way for your followers and your audience to understand who these folks are if they weren't celebrities or they weren't a luminary in our culture. So I thank you so much for that as something that I look to on a daily basis and really lifts me up. Thank you for your work, Eunique, from the bottom of my heart. And I'll tell you a story off camera about the time that I tried to play culture tags with some people that weren't steeped in our culture and how that went. But it's
all good. Everyone can get it in culture tags.
It was a teachable moment. It was a teachable moment.
Yeah. Oh, it's fun.
It's a really, really fun game. You just spoke on community and what the community meant as you were building your brand and what the community means in terms of holding you down and really being a part of your vision. I want to talk about the phrase, we all we got. I know we say it all the time. We all we got. So what does that mean to each of you? I want to start with you, Leslie, but what does it say about the love of community Black folks have for one another, how we breathe life into each other, into the most dire and dark situations, and can still find a way to be a support mechanism and a place of love and community? What does, when you hear somebody say, we all we got, Leslie, what's it mean?
For me, I always take we all we got to mean that there are spaces where we will find a soft landing, that Black people create spaces, whether it's a group chat or a Zoom meeting or a phone call or a party, that there will always be a place where Black people are creating soft landing spots for those of us that are in need. And that's what I always think about when I hear we all we got. And actually reminds me of a story of my mother. Shout out to you, Valerie. I know she's going to be watching too. she turned 60, quite a few years ago. We had a big surprise party and we invited all of our folks. I grew up in Flatbush, Brooklyn, and my family's from Jamaica. So it's a lot of Caribbean situations going on anytime we gather. And so we had a lot of people that came from the neighborhood who don't live there anymore, but came to celebrate my mom. And so, of course, there's a point where everyone's giving their little speeches and saying how nice they are. And one of my really close friends, Stacy, got up, who's a doctor now. And she said, I have a story I want to tell about Valerie. And I was like, she got a story about my mom's? Like, I had no idea there was a story between my friend and my mother. And she said when they're from Barbados and they had moved to the United States after we did. And so a lot of times in Flatbush, when that happens, a new family moves in, they're new to the country, everybody kind of rallied around them. Like, hey, what do you need? Here's where you find the different things. Here's where you can, feel like you have a little piece of home. Here's where you buy the right meats and all of those kinds of conversations. And she had a school dance pretty soon after the school year had begun. And they really had no idea like what to do, like what was appropriate, what wasn't appropriate. It was really causing Stacy a lot of anxiety and her mom as well. My mother, unbeknownst to me, went after school one day, grabbed Stacy, took her to Saks Fifth Avenue, bought her a dress, bought her a pair of shoes, got her everything she needed for the school dance, and never said a word about it that she just did that. And Stacy talked about how she was so confident going into the dance and how much it meant to her. And so when we say we all we got, it's those moments, it's those stories that, my mom just saw a need, stepped in to make sure Stacy had a soft place to land and that she was able to actually enjoy herself and not feel as though she was otherized, in school and at this event. And I go back to that story because it really is so indicative of that spirit of we all we got and what community means for each other. And so that's what put me in mind of that. We are all we got.
Ugh, I'm verklempt, Leslie.
Tiffany's crying.
I'm crying.
Silent tears going.
Eunique, what does it mean when we say we all we got?
Man, Leslie captured it. I think about my dad and all his stories about how they were growing up and how they just looked out for one another. He talks about I think he talks about it the most when he describes his experience being in Vietnam and or being in the military and how Black folks really just had to look out for one another. And he said, they would greet each other with, hey, sister Black, hey, brother Black, even if they didn't know you, you just looked out for one another. And I think we all we got is you got to look out for one another. At the end of the day, like Leslie said, knowing that you have a soft landing, being that shoulder, being that ear, and just knowing that the grass may look greener on the other side sometimes, but we all we got at the end of the day. At the end of the day, we are all we got. And sometimes it takes some unfortunate experiences for us to recognize that and for us to accept that truth. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. We all we got. And if we can just adopt and remember that as a community, I just think we'll continue to be so much better off.
Whew. All of that.
Sister Black. What's up, Sister Black?
Sister Black. Listen,
Black?
I have so many examples and so much gratitude, but I'm just going to say in the here and now, and again, try not to get too emotional, but this work has been so hard. I mean, it has just been such an ongoing challenge for years, obviously since the election of 45 and the time building up. But baby, May 2022 today has been a ride. It's been very hard. And I mean to tell you, I know I'm blessed by my ancestors to be surrounded by brilliant. When I mean brilliant black leadership, Black folks, Black organizers, but particularly Black women. And to be able to drop a link to a news story and just girl. And people spring into action, right? With ideas, with strategy, with how to respond, to be able to just hit the group chat with a sad emoji, like Leslie said, and be like, girl, I feel it. It's in the air for me too. What do you need? How can I help? There's no way that I feel like, and I'm just gonna name, there are so many brilliant Black folks to name, but I'm gonna name Leslie Mack because she's my colleague on the Frontline, and our comms director. And shout out to Leslie Mack, Ceci Sparrow, and Naima Davis, the Frontline team of Black women who are just doing the damn thing. But without strong, sharp Black women who lead with a Black feminist lens, who lead with compassion, who lead with so much care in this work, because ultimately we understand that the goal is liberation, is freedom, is all of the things that we dream of, has just been such an incredible gift. And I don't know that I would have been able to stay in this work if I didn't have that built-in professional and private support system. So thank you to all the people that are watching, and you know who you are that I'm talking about. I thank you on behalf of myself in the Frontline, because we are all we got. And you guys really have held it down and got us to where we are today. So that's what it means to me, Sister Black.
I love it.
I love it too.
I'm just so grateful. So since we're talking memories and going down memory lane, I want to close out with a last question about your favorite Black community experience. Leslie, you touched on Eunique, Sister Black, you touched on some shared experiences with your families, but what's yours? Like your individual moment that you saw was steeped in a kind of love and was about the practice of freedom and the very things that Bell teaches and talked about. I'm going to start with you, Leslie, because I want to close with Sister Black.
We all Sister Black.
Listen, we all Sister Black. That's right. We all Sister Black. I think back to my childhood again in Flatbush. One of the things that I remember being just you couldn't get away with things. If somebody else's mama saw you do something, your mama was gonna know. When the ice cream truck pulled up, if your mom wasn't around, it's cool. Somebody else had the dollar to pay for your ice cream cone. And I really remember we used to do these block parties where we'd close off our block and everybody would come out and we'd have people cooking and different things going on. And I remember the freedom of, no cars coming through our space in the midst of this concrete jungle of Flatbush, Brooklyn, and getting to taste Trinidadian food and Bajan food and from Grenada and obviously Jamaican food and all the different things that we were able to do, and all the kids running around playing tag, doing different games and learning songs. And of course, at the end, we had a DJ where we could dance and have fun together. And the carefreeness of that, the freedom in just reveling and being able to be together and be in community with each other. And then the other thing that comes to mind is my mom was really instrumental in doing tenant rights organizing in our community, and I used to have to get dragged to these meetings. And I remember those being my first understanding of like what organizing was and what the needs of it were. And especially because some of them were very clandestine. It wasn't like they didn't want to write stuff down. They didn't want the landlord to know that people were meeting and things like that. And so that too is freedom, a freedom in collective voice and in coming together for a collective goal. And those are the things that I remember when I think about those community freedom moments for me.
I love it. I love it. For me, definitely childhood memories come to mind. But I think I would probably take mine to like my HBCU college experience. I went to Bowie State University. Shout out to BSU, but shout out to all HBCUs. That's just a place where I felt free, right? Like free to explore, free to mess up, free to grow, free to ask questions, safety, support. All of it was there, and it was a fun experience. My collegiate experience was fun. Like I mean, don't know what colleges you all went to, or if you went, but I just can't I can't stress enough how dope the HBCU experience is. And when I think about, education as a practice of like freedom, I just think about that environment. I think about what it allowed for me to really develop into the person that I am today. I think about, of course, my childhood and the environment that my parents created. We grew up in an apartment complex, and it's funny. I was telling my husband we live in a single family home now. The kids don't know the kids next door because people aren't coming outside, and I'm like, yo, we should have raised these kids in an apartment. Like we should have been in an apartment complex, because it was the best to really get my first experience with like what community looked like, right? What it looked like to look out for one another, to have somebody's back. Like that was really my interest. It was all I knew growing up in an apartment complex. But to really elevate that to the next level was definitely when I went and I stayed on campus at Bowie State, and was able to see a different type of community where I was reflected back, where I got to really challenge some of the things that I was doing and why I was doing them, why I was wearing my hair a certain way, why I was dressing a certain way, why was I talking a certain way, like who taught me that, right? And also just like re-educating myself. But I felt that freedom to do that and the safety to do that within that space. So mine would probably be like that. I can't narrow it down to like one experience. It would just be my collective experience attending an HBCU.
Oh, Unique. See, now I get my jealous moment because I wanted to go to an HBCU, um, and I didn't get into Spelman. And my mom wouldn't let me go to Howard because it was 1996. And she said, absolutely not.
She
She
was
said,
like, you would not be on Georgia Avenue or Florida Avenue on my watch.
not you, not mine.
She said, not my child.
No, 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 no. And I was coming straight out of a 6.2, shout out New London, square foot town in Connecticut. And she knew what it was going to be. So she said, no, ma'am, not you. And I ended up at Temple, which was perfectly fine. But I did not get an HBCU experience that I so deeply craved, coming from a life that was steeped in New England and New England culture. And I'll leave it there. But my my actual memory, it's the movement for Black Lives convening of 2015. It's the hug I got from Leslie Mack days after they had murdered Sandra Bland. I'm calling it murder. It was the beauty, the expansiveness of Blackness in a way that I had never truly felt and experienced it before. The confines of that campus felt very safe. The magical things that were happening all around me, from impromptu drum circles to dancing to prayer to healing. I mean, just straight up education. And then I didn't get to stay all weekend because I was getting married the following weekend, but I was there for the convening on Saturday morning, where all of these Black people from all over America and all over the world had come together and demand that we take this action and move it into policy. And we all agreed that we wanted to build out an agenda, and how thoughtful this space was, and then just how healing it was. There was a chorus. There was of all Black folks. There were the parents of so many of the slain Black folks that we were fighting for, that we had come to know them posthumously, right? But their families showed up and they breathed life into them. They told us about how they laughed, what they liked to read, what their free time and their family time was like. And we moved through all of these things together. And then at the end, when you really thought you couldn't take anymore, the beginning of Kendrick Lamar, all my life I had to fight. And if you were there, like, I can't wait for the Movement documentary. I can't wait when they go to everybody and ask, how did you feel in that moment? Because I thought I had wings. I literally thought the whole building was up in the air somewhere, and we were beyond earth, we were beyond space, we were beyond time, we were young and Black, and not even just young, but I was young and Black and powerful and safe and smart and strong and sharp, and all these things that society tells all of us that we're not. We were together in that moment. And that's when I fell in love. That's when I said, all right, movement, you got me. Good, bad, and different. I'll be here because this is where our people need us, and this is the work that's worthy to be done. So thank you.
I got goosebumps of you just remembering that moment. And I was one of the organizers, so I was working that weekend. I didn't get to see everything that attendees got to see, but I insisted on being there for that program. And I was like, okay. So I went on stage and I put water next to all of the families on stage. And then I went and took my seat because I really wanted to experience it. And it really was, one of the, most memorable moments of my life, both that entire program and the use of Hezekiah Walker's I Need You to Survive, which was the refrain that was played in between each of the stories that the families, told, that Mike Brown's favorite color was blue. And, these really personal stories about Rakia Boyd and so many others. And so, yeah, I have goosebumps just thinking about that moment, because when Kendrick came on, it was like we were in such a, I call it liminal space of us connecting really on a soul to soul level. And then the song was the release. And this feeling of hope was so powerful in the room. I hold on to that so often because it really was really something special. And yeah, it was really something special. So thank you for mentioning that.
Thank you. I've worked myself up into a tizzy again because it was such an important moment of my life. But thank you for affirming that. And for those of you who were there, please share your memories. If you were at the convening of 2015, how did that feel for you if you got to experience that moment? Because, man, what a moment for the culture. Whew. So, Leslie, Eunique, this is what it's all about, the love that we share for each other. I love of storytelling. I love in spending time with one another. So, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I really have nothing but love and gratitude for each of you and the work that you're doing in the world and how you're showing up for our people. So, with that in mind, Leslie, tell the people you're not just the comms director of the Frontline. You do so much. Tell the people how to find you, what you're working on.
Sure. You can find me most of the time on Twitter at Leslie Mack, MAC, just like you see it on screen. You can also go to lesliemack.com. I'm always doing a lot of stuff. I like to be behind the scenes, so this is a rare moment of me being on screen, to be perfectly honest. But I wanted to be here for this conversation about community with Eunique and Tiffany, so it was important to me. I'm really excited about all the work I'm doing. I work with In Our Own Voice, which is a collective of Black reproductive justice organizations. I work with the Advancement Project on their justice project around the country with different organizations, really challenging the criminal justice system. And actually, let me rephrase, because there's no justice there. The criminal legal system, as I like to refer to it now, because they know justice over there. And lots of other things as well. But yep, I also bake once a week. So if you're a baker, follow me. You'll get a lot of stuff around that too. But yeah, mostly I'm on Twitter at Leslie Mack, and you can find me everywhere else at lesliemack.com.
Cool. I need to get into the baking once a week, Leslie. My husband got me out here looking horrible. So I'll have to tap you for that. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm Eunique, EUNIQUE. Also on Instagram, Eunique JG. I'm usually between those two platforms. As far as like the work, always consistently doing the work over at Because of Them. Also doing the fun, gut laughing, laugh out loud work over at Culture Tags. That's at Culture Tags. And really just working with other like-minded individuals or folks who need a clue on developing culturally relevant products and campaigns that affirm the very best of like who we are. And when I'm not doing that, I'm raising these three kids, 13, 9, and 5 with my husband. So that's where you can find me.
I'm gonna say 5011 because Beyonce said her 3 kids is 5011 kids. So you got 5011 kids.
And listen, it's 5011. I'm like, now 3. Yeah, okay. Baby's 5. All right, Lord help. But no, it's great. I mean, I tell everybody they're my KPIs, right? So like all this work, none of it matters unless I am a reflection of love in my own home. And my kids feel like they matter and they're important because they are. And my husband feels like that. And so that's what really encourages me to do this work, because it starts in the house. And so Thank you, Tiffany, for the opportunity to come and to chat with you all about bell hooks and about the work. Leslie, you know how I feel about you. Was so touched not too long ago when I saw you share the post that you put up back in 2013 when I first launched the campaign. So thank you for always being a real one and being supportive. And also, I just want to shout out my team because it's not just me. I would be, be crazy to think that it's just me behind here. When you were talking about like Eunique, you post, I'm like, I don't remember the last time I posted anything. I have an amazing team, and we just feel blessed every day to be able to do good work on behalf of our community.
Eunique, Leslie, really, honestly, this has been such a wonderful, wonderful conversation. I appreciate it. Eunique, we got to find a way for you to get back on the front line. I don't know, culture tags night or something. We got to talk behind the scenes.
Let's do it.
I would love that.
Let's do let's do a game night. We might be having a game night at the end of the month, so I'm working on it, but I'll keep you posted. But yeah, we can definitely do something.
Well, we're on the front line. We love us some self-care. We love us some game nights, and we do it all. So maybe dinner and a culture tag. We'll talk. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Leslie, Eunique. I really appreciate it. Can't say enough about how much fun this was. So, audience friends, if you had a good time tonight and you're looking to join us for more, come back on Wednesday, February 23rd at 7 o'clock. We'll be joined by Nsé Ufot, the CEO of the New Georgia Project, and Representative Ayanna Presley to talk about love in policy. It's going to be a great conversation, and I really, really hope to see you there. In the meantime, thanks for joining us always on the front line. We're so happy to see you, and we'll talk again very soon, friends.